Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MURPH Media, and today I will be playing Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Morrowind was released back in 2002, and I myself have been playing it for well over 10 years. And I can probably say it's one of my most all-time favorite games. However, being that it was made in 2002, it has aged quite a bit. But there are tons of mods for you to choose from out there nowadays. Now that I have this game modded up in pretty much a general way I like it right now, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I do for the first hour or so of gameplay. What quests I do, where I go, what items I get, and just to kind of set up a nice playthrough where you have some decent items to get you through some things with some armor and a good chunk of change to be able to spend. So let's go ahead, guys, and let's get this rolling.
They have taken you from the Imperial City's prison, first by carriage and now by boat. To the east, to Morrowind. Fear not, for I am watchful. You have been chosen.
Wake up. We're here. Why are you shaking? Are you okay? Wake up. Stand up. There you go. You were dreaming. What's your name? Well, not even last night's storm could wake you. I heard them say we've reached Morrowind. I'm sure they'll let us go.
Just a heads up, I will be commentating on this.
Quiet. Here comes the guard.
This is where you get off. Come with me.
So right off the bat, you probably see some things different if you've played vanilla Morrowind. I do have very intense mods. I'll kind of go through them and show them to you as we go about the playthrough.
Get yourself up on.
This is where they want you. Head down to the dock and
So this is the heavily modded Morrowind. The main mod that I am using is Morrowind Overhaul Sound and Graphics.
You finally arrived at our refuge location.
Now, generally, I am a Breton. I like their affinity to magic resistance. It makes those caster types a lot easier to deal with. If this is your first time playing Morrowind, I definitely recommend doing some research on the races and the classes and the skills and all of their strengths and weaknesses just to really narrow down what kind of playthrough you want to go for. Because you can create your own class in this, you can really cater it to whatever play style you want to go with.
Yes, we've been expecting you. You'll have to be recorded before you're officially released. There are a few ways we can do this, and the choice is yours.
So once you figure out your class and your sign, you'll get to this screen right here where you can do some last minute edits and tweaks, and you actually can see your starting stats. As you can see, I went ahead and changed my name. I created a custom class roughly based on the pre-built Crusader class within Morrowind, just with more magic skills rather than combat skills. And I also chose the ritual sign for its very useful spells and its power, which is actually a really nice healing ability. So first things first, we need some cash, and that has a value of 650 gold. Take it and drop it immediately.
Continue through to the next building and talk to Celisgravius.
So you get a slap on the wrist, you pick it right up, and they're like, hey, okay, whatever. Then continue on with your day. I have this weird thing about opening up every single dialogue option for a character, and it's just this weird quirky thing that I do, and you're just gonna have to forgive me about it. So the amount of loot you can get from right here in this first building is entirely up to you. You can go through and just ransack everything, steal the torches off the wall, steal those buckets. Really doesn't matter. You can come up here into this room over here. You can steal everything on the table. You can steal stuff on the shelf. Me personally, for this certain playthrough, I did not. I kind of wanted to get past this area pretty quick and kind of get on with the playthrough itself. So this infuriatingly long lockpicking session, I guess you could call it, is pretty much the first example that you're going to see of the Dungeons and Dragons-esque way this game goes about doing its things. So the game calculates everything you do based on a bunch of variables. In this case, it's the level of the lock, the level of my security skill, and what kind of lockpick that is. So that's why it took me so long. My security skill is very low, and so using an apprentice lockpick on a level 1 lock, it took so many times for me to actually be able to unlock that box. So this is a really good point for me to point out one of my mods. Whenever you cast spells, normally you have to bring up your magic hands and do magic-y things. However, the mod, as you can see, I had my weapon hand out. It actually allowed me to cast a spell while my weapon is out. So it's a little bit more like Oblivion that way, but I feel like it's a lot better system than actually having to switch to magic hands and then switch back to weapon, because you're trying to heal yourself and you're trying to fumble with the swapping, and you know, just bad things happen. Just bad things happen. So we just got our first quest. We got to go to Balmora to report to Caius Cosades, By the way, I'm probably going to butcher a bunch of names because a lot of these names are a little weird. And we got to deliver a package to him. However, before we do that, we're going to go ahead and do some things around here first. First things first, give Fargoth back the ring. Trust me. It's the healing ring you received earlier, right before it unlocked the spell stuff for you. His disposition goes up, which gets the trade house owner's disposition up, and you get better prices on things. So just go ahead and do that. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to head out of town. If this is your first playthrough, I generally recommend going ahead and going to the trade house, selling off what you've got, and get some armor and weapons that you are skilled in before you do this. But if you just don't want to do it and you want to go ahead and get on with the playthrough like I'm doing, go ahead, follow the road. You should be fine. You shouldn't run into anything on the road. So this guy who just fell out of the sky apparently had something to prove, and he went ahead and made these scrolls that up your acrobatics for a short amount of time. They make you jump a really far, and it's great and it's super fun. But if you don't have like certain spells or use another one on the landing, you die. So I wouldn't recommend using it. But he has some good loot, and if you have the long blade skill, that sword that he drops is top notch, and you're probably going to use it for a good chunk of time here early on in the playthrough. I know I always do. So now's a good time to basically kind of break down combat. It works a lot like the lockpick. It takes a lot of things into consideration. Your weapon skill, your agility, your fatigued, their armor skill, their agility, their amount of fatigue, and just all this other stuff, jumbles them all together, and it basically gives you this dice roll with specific chance of hitting it or not. In the very beginning, you're going to miss a lot more than you're going to hit, but stick with it, train the skill you want to train, and you're going to be a lot more successful at it. So I have now run up on our first dungeon. As you can see, I rested until I was healed, and then the rest got interrupted by this little guy. But that's okay. I'm still in good health. I think I'm going to go ahead and go inside this dungeon and give it a whirl. Inside this dungeon is actually a pretty nice artifact, and that's what we're going for. However, there are also undead creatures in this dungeon that I'm going to have to deal with first. What's really great, though, is that I chose the Ritual as my sign, which gives me 2 spells that turn undead, which means undead will basically run away from me for a certain amount of time. So something to note, I used my spell, but it was in the middle of that ghost's casting. So you saw that the ghost finished its cast, and then the spell took into effect. These are things you need to look out for and remember whenever you are playing Morrowind, because the timing of spells can actually mean the difference between life and death. So you will see here that I'm going to use my spell and then peek around the corner as soon as it goes into effect. For some reason, it was taking a little while for it to go into effect with this guy, which is fine. There are going to be little bugs here and there, but it takes effect. He's running away from me. Now he's basically just my personal pincushion that I just have to dice roll to hit at this point. So I went ahead and swapped to my healing spell. I'm going to go ahead and heal myself right before I actually open up this urn, because this urn is trapped, and you never know what's in the traps. So I take some damage, but I'm okay because I did heal myself, and I'm going to open up the urn. Boom, we're going to go ahead, grab the key, and then that ring right there is called the Mentor's Ring. It ups your intelligence and your willpower by 10 points. The intelligence will actually give you more magical pool, whenever the willpower will actually give you more resistance to magicka. As soon as you exit the dungeon, go ahead, turn southward, and start following the coast kind of back towards Side and Need. You're going to come up to a peninsula with a dead body on it. On your way, you might run into a mud crab, or a cuddle, or a rat, but you'll be fine. You got your trusty sword with you. Once you activate that dead body, a new quest will start. Go ahead and loot the money and the tax record for the quest. And at the end of this quest, you're going to end up with a nice little base of operations for early game and a good chunk of change to be able to spend. So basically, your journal will tell you, hey, I found a dead body, I should tell a guard. You're going to tell a guard, and they're going to tell you to go to the census office. Now, you could go back the way you came, back to the census office, but I want to avoid those loading screens because reasons, and I use this little shortcut. I jump on these rocks, and then I jump over this wall, and then I just enter through the door that I first entered when I started the game. Right then, I just made a decision to give him back the 200 gold pieces. You can keep the 200 gold pieces, and I do believe the reward is still 500 gold pieces once the quest is said and done, which means you would actually end up with 700 gold pieces. But you know what? I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You do you, boo-boo. So pretty much the only clue I got right now is the tax record. And I got a couple people that have some pretty high outstanding fees going on here. So I'm suspecting something's going on with that foreign Gilnith guy. But I'm going to go ahead and ask around. And I got a good friend, Fargoth, here that I gave him his ring, so he'll probably hook me up with some info. So basically, Fargoth tells me that the dude was pretty chummy with the lady here in the lighthouse. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the lighthouse and see if she's got any info for me.
I'm waiting.
So it looks like the only time Dead Yahoo got angry was whenever he was dealing with Foreign Gilnith. So that's adding some validity to our suspicions about Foreign Gilnith being involved in this. So we're going to go talk to him, but first we're going to go upstairs, and we are going to read this book and get a skill point. Keep in mind that we need to get a ring off Foreign Gilnith before we complete the quest and give it back to her, because they were both dear friends and she wants the ring to remember him by. So keep that in mind while you're going through this quest.
Anytime.
So Foreign's house is amongst this bunch of houses here inside of Neen. Now you're going to confront him about the murder of Yahoo, and he's going to say, well, yeah, I did it. What about it? You can either let him go, or you can go ahead and punish him for his crimes. If you do not punish him, which means basically he lives, you do not get to have a nice little home base here inside of Neen for early game. So as you can see, I'm not hitting Foreign nearly as much as I do the Cuddles. That's because his security is higher, his agility is higher, he just has different stats. And my stats do not allow me to have as many successful dice rolls against those stats. He's using fists, which eventually, fists will bring down your fatigue. And it'll only bring down your fatigue until you're knocked over. And you get knocked over when your fatigue is all the way down and you get punched. When you fight somebody who's better at fists than you are at whatever weapon you're doing, it can be a real pain in the butt. So I go ahead and leave here, and I gotta figure out what I gotta do. So I've gone ahead and decided to give magic a try. I know Dark Elves, which is what Foreign is, are resistant to fire, so I'm going to go ahead and buy the Spark spell and try that on him. So Magicka works a little differently. Your skill and the amount of Magicka you have actually determines the chance of which you will be successful at casting the spell, and then the amount of damage is determined with more variables considering, you know, the opponent's damage resistance to magics, that particular magic, what kind of race they are, what kind of items they have, stuff like that. So if you went ahead and decided to kill Foreign and punish him for his crimes, his house is now free. And the way this game works is things do not kind of like respawn in such a way as far as items and stuff go, at least in most areas. So you actually can use this little house as a base of operations for early game. And me personally, I've actually used it for whenever I'm a pretty high level too. It's just a nice little house with good storage to be able to put things. So upon leaving Foreign's shack, I've gone ahead and decided to come back to the trade house and offload a lot of the loot and stuff that I've gotten from his house and just from traveling around. I generally do recommend, if this is your first playthrough, going ahead and returning the ring and completing the quest before this, because you can actually sell the ring and also the package that you're supposed to deliver to What's-His-Face in Balmora. The thing is this game does not stop you from selling quest items, and that could be a real pain in the butt whenever you are trying to complete quests and you are just going on selling sprees. So that's just something to keep in mind whenever you're going through this game. So I went ahead, sold off some items, but I also traded in some for some heavy armor. I went ahead and grabbed some heavy armor because that's what my character is trained in. Go ahead and pick up some armor that your character is trained in and start getting that skill up. But right now, I'm going to head to the lighthouse, return the ring, and then I'm going to head over to the census office and complete the quest. I guess while I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go through the mods. You just saw me look at that beautiful little sunset there. The main mod that I used is Morrowind Overhaul Sound and Graphics. And what it is, it's a collection of some great Morrowind mods into this one big package. It does take a little setup, but once you get it going, it is a great mod to have. It changes everything from basic graphics to lighting to sounds, and then even to the combat system and the faces and everything. I did keep the better bodies, but I did, you know, opt out of better faces, and I wanted the plain Jane faces that came with the vanilla game, just because that's how I wanted it. It's very reminiscent of my childhood whenever I played this game all the time. Also, the combat. I think this combat system from the vanilla game actually sets it apart from Oblivion and Skyrim. I feel like it's very Dungeons and Dragons-y. It's a different experience, and if I wanted to play Oblivion or Skyrim, I would play Oblivion and Skyrim. I want to play me some Morrowind, so that's why I kept the combat the same. That's a part of Morrowind. That is the charm of this old game. Now, if you decide to go ahead and run, you know, the combat mods and everything, that is okay. That's up to you. Like I said, you do you, boo-boo. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. Aside from that, I do have a couple other mods. I do have a mod that adds some extra armor and stuff you can buy in the game. I have a mod that lets you actually create constant effect items rather than just cast on use items. And you'll kind of see the difference once you start playing the game. But the Morrowind Overhaul mod is the primary mod. It is a very expansive mod, and it's pretty much a go-to if you want to play some Morrowind now. I think it adds a great look to the game. Look at that! Look at that! Come on now! As somebody who's played the crap out of this game in vanilla, all it's done is make me want to re-explore and see everything again, just because of how different everything is. There are also so many options within the mod that you can literally make it however you want. Like I said, I opted out of the combat mods and the better face mods because those things remind me of a simpler time where I would just sit there and listen to Led Zeppelin and play Morrowind. I still associate the two to this day.
We make a special trip just for you, same low price.
So, at this point, I can sit here and decide to walk to Balmora or ride the Silt Strider to Balmora, but I'm not gonna lie, that just doesn't sound good right now, and I still got a couple things I want to do here. I'm actually gonna come down here from the Silt Strider. I'm gonna go into yet another dungeon. It's a small cave with some bandits and stuff in it, and actually some slaves we're gonna free. So let's free the people. Pro tip, the NPCs will actually try to track you whenever they're casting or throwing projectiles at you. So if you kind of do this left and right business like you would do in CSGO or some other first-person shooter, it actually makes them a little wonky and keeps you from getting hurt by some of these spells. And spells are the bread and butter of damage up in this game. So, as you can see, I came into this lighted area because I could barely see the guy. Partly that has something to do with the mod. The mod actually makes the lighting a lot more contrasting, so darks are really dark and brights are nice and bright and vibrant. But also in the vanilla game, some of the lighting was kind of the same way. Some people say that's more of a hindrance, but I mean, that's pretty immersive if it's too dark to see your enemy to fight them, to get to a well-lit area to actually be able to fight them. I don't know. It's, again, a part of a charm thing and a part of your own personal preference. I am actually, within post-recording of this video, editing it so actually dark areas are a little brighter. So these really dark areas are actually super dark with this mod on. So take that into consideration whenever you are downloading mods and setting it up and everything like that. You know, just you do you, boo-boo.
Good friend, this is an honor.
You will see me walk a lot of places. The main thing is if I know I'm going to be doing some combat or if I'm in an unfamiliar area, I'm going to walk because fatigue is king. If you have low fatigue, your chances of everything gets lower. It's kind of crazy. And unlike the more modern games, your fatigue actually gets lower as you sprint and run around, which makes sense. In a lot of ways, this is a way more immersive game than some of the more modern games. You have probably noticed that I'm being pretty selective as to what I am looting. I generally try to do like a nice little, you know, value to weight ratio because I don't want to be encumbered and not be able to move. So I go ahead, I generally get most weapons. I of course pick up all the gold I possibly can. But things under like 10 gold I'll kind of shy away from. Even the 15 gold is kind of one of those things. It's just, you know, figure out what works for you. I kind of have my own system of doing things. You know, you do you, boo-boo. I suppose that's kind of the theme of this video, huh? So as you can probably tell, this part was super dark, so I pretty much just had to kind of feel my way around, I guess, with the walkings and the stuff like that, and then eventually find some water, and then I'm like, okay, if I get deep enough in some water, it'll do this right here, as you can see, and I'll be able to kind of see my way around. So, pro tip, use water to find yourself through caves and stuff whenever it's a low light situation. So my fatigue is a little low. What I'll do is I'll actually go over here, and because the rat's not going to do much damage to me, I'll go ahead and just pick up some stuff that I was already going to pick up, let my fatigue increase a little bit, and then I'll turn around and actually start swinging at him with better chance of actually hitting. Oh, and look at that. I killed it. So the ring I just picked up actually buffs agility, speed, and personality for a certain amount of time. Now, what I generally use this for is for the personality buff, so I can get better prices at certain vendors and such. So I went ahead and sold off some loot over at Arle's trade house. Also dropped off some loot back at the house. I'm going to opt out of walking to Balmora just to save some time, and I went ahead and split the gold at the Silt Strider to fast travel to Balmora, because that's how fast travel works here in Morrowind. You have to use a Silt Strider or a boat or some sort of transportation means. First thing I do when I get to Balmora is I actually loot a lot of the crates. A lot of times there's soul gems, some good potions that are really good for selling or keeping, depending on what you want to do within your playthrough. And sometimes you'll find some nice magic weapons. Let's go ahead and see what we find in this playthrough. An early find is this Silver Viper Slayer. It's a two-handed long blade claymore that is enchanted with poison damage, and it's also of silver quality. Silver is actually a pretty decent quality to have. I like steel over it, especially in enchanted weapons, because steel and silver weapons generally have the same damage, but steel has a higher health rate, basically, so a higher durability, so you can use it longer without repairing it. The advantage of using silver weapon, which is actually a little better quality than the steel weapons, is if both weapon qualities are unenchanted, the only one that will affect monsters that are immune to normal weapons is the silver quality weapon. However, an enchanted steel weapon will affect a monster that is immune to normal weapons. So, just a little tidbit there for ya. So in that building, I went ahead and talked to this man who directed me to Caius, who is who I need to report to for that first quest that we received within this playthrough. So here's Caius. Go ahead, report to him, give him the package, and go ahead and report for duty, or basically get your orders, and he's going to give you some cash to better your equipment, or get better at life. So, go ahead, do that, take that money, we're going to use that to basically get better at life later on.
Ah, welcome.
So I wanted to go ahead and show you something when it came to traders. Disposition does matter. I don't know if you noticed the little blue bar up above the dialogue options, but his is about halfway when it comes to his disposition towards me, which means I'm going to get a certain price on things. So let's say I want to sell him this tanto and these pants, right? But because his disposition, he will only give me 6 gold for both the tanto and the pants. Let's go ahead and go to Arle's shop, and see what he's going to give me. His disposition is way higher from me. I went ahead and used the ring right there for better personality, for a little bit more boost in that disposition. Go ahead and give him the Tanto, the pants, and he'll give me 9 gold. So, something to think about whenever you're trying to choose traders. And there you have it. You're going to have a good chunk of gold. You're probably going to have some armor. You're probably going to have some decent stats to work with. Maybe a spell or two. Just depending on how your playthrough went. This is all you. But you also have a house, nice little base of operations. You got some good disposition with a trader. You know what? Y'all are set up for success for Morrowind. And there you have it. I'm set up for a really nice playthrough and got myself a little house, got myself some armor, and got myself some gold. Hey, it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out. I couldn't recommend this game enough. If you haven't played it yet, go ahead and play it vanilla for a little while before you start modding it, just so you can, get the grasp of how aged it is and how cool the mods make it now. If you have played it, go ahead, mod it out, and just re-enjoy this world. I know I've been. I hope you found this video entertaining. If you did, please leave a like below. If you didn't like it, I mean, dislike it. I mean, I couldn't care less either way. You guys, have a great day.